glass, I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Monday. Hope it's going well for you all out there. It's snowing like crazy here. Just a real nasty day. Just a nasty, awful day. Anywho, what I have up there in the corner, I'm going to take the monitor down for just a minute, but we're going to pull it back up, and we're going to take some looks at this stuff because we got Elon Musk has done dump number 5 on the Twitter files. And this is on Barry Weiss's Twitter feed if you want to look at it. Matt Taibbi did the first few, and apparently Barry has got this one coming from Musk. And he's talking about doing a dump on COVID-19 as well, which, I mean, this dude is blowing the lid off of this place. He's fearless. He doesn't care. I mean, I guess when you're the richest man on the planet, but it's still got to I saw he put out a tweet earlier today, and it was just like basically saying, come at me, you know? So, I mean, we start off with this thing. This is the Twitter files part 5, and it's titled "The Removal of Trump from Twitter." So this is about, how they went about getting rid of him, and it is pretty. It's disturbing. I don't care what you think about Trump because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this is Trump. It doesn't matter if it's somebody else from the Democrat side. It doesn't matter. When this is what's happening, and when you have this orchestrated effort, not only with social media, but with government officials, with, quote unquote intelligence. I mean, you had the FBI directly involved in this. And that's not, this is something that needs to be taken very seriously by the public, everybody out there. I mean, if you have any inclination whatsoever to think that you might want to pay attention to what's going on, now's the time, because this is what's going on right now, what he's doing, this is bigger than Watergate. This is bigger than, Bill Clinton not having sexual relations with that woman. This is bigger than a lot of things. I mean, it's the biggest event in our national politics that's probably happened since the assassination of JFK, I would say. I mean, what they've done here, and the thing is, it's not getting any play with the mainstream media. Nothing. The only news outfit that's even covering it is Fox. You're not seeing it anywhere else because they're all implicated in it. These news organizations are just as deeply implicated in it as Twitter is, as Bookface is a little bit down lower, I guess, but the tweeters, you're getting a chance to see, I think, why Musk wanted to buy Twitter, and I think you're going to be surprised to see what this Twitter turns into with him behind the helm. I mean, he got rid of 80% of the dead weight over there, which, I was watching videos of people going in there playing like ping pong or air hockey or something. They're just screwing around. They're not even doing anything, And the sad thing is that these are all, what they had in there. You've got a bunch of young people that have, these quote unquote engineers, whatever they are, that have just got out of college. They've been inundated with this, these leftist mentalities, right? And it's not that there's nothing wrong with being a liberal. Okay, I'm liberal on a ton of things, probably more so than I am conservative. But what I'm not for is shutting people down. I believe that free speech is it's the most important thing that we have, even more so than 2A, because without the First Amendment, the rest of it's shot. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to shut anybody down that thinks differently. We used to be able to have discourse in this country. We used to be able to have, reasonable and respectful arguments with one another. And we've allowed these idiots to divide us through whatever have you. Everything's racist. Everything, you're transphobic, you're homophobic, you're Islamophobic. I'm politicophobic right now. I'm republicophobic. I'm democraticophobic. I don't like any of them. They're all liars. They've proven themselves to be so. And we keep doing the same thing over and over again. Now, that's the alcoholic's definition of insanity. When you keep doing the same things over and over and you expect different results, it's like the analogy I've made before with that episode of The Simpsons from way back in the day with Sideshow Bob trying to chase down Bart. And there's that scene where he's stepping on rakes. That's what we do every election. It's like we just step on one big collective rake and it comes up and whack, and then we turn around and go, and then next election we step on the next one. When are we going to wake up to this? When are we going to wise up to this? When are we going to see that everything that we think is true is false? I challenge you. I mean, look at what you thought was true 5 years ago. Look at what you thought was true 10 years ago. Is it true now? Maybe a few things, but a lot of it isn't. Everything changes, and we got to be willing to change too. We have to be willing and open to change, to growing, mentally, intellectually, spiritually, physically. I mean, life it's all about learning something new every day. That's my mantra, is to learn something new every day. Whether it's, learning a new scale on the guitar, learning how to build something different, learning something on this freaking computer that just drives me up the wall, trying to put this thing out. I mean, it's all about every day. And politically, and socially and everything else, we have to learn. We have to learn about one another. We got to be willing to be open and listen to each other. We just shut each other down, and you put your hats on that say one thing or another. People are getting beat up for their hats, for their yard signs. Come on. It never used to be like that. I mean, when I grew up, my parents didn't even tell each other who they voted for. Now, everybody just puts it out there as like it's a badge of honor. Like it used to be a private thing, like you and the ballot booth or whatever. That was between you and your ballot, and you didn't talk about it with other people. Sure, in different times it would come up. I remember a number of times, obviously the Thanksgiving table's always a place where it comes up, and, but it never got ugly. Like no one threw a turkey at anybody or anything like that. If somebody disagreed with somebody else, the conversation would happen, and then onward you would go. And now we've got these people, these triggered, these triggered kids that are basically running these big, these big tech companies, and they're all on the left, and they've all grown up, and this is our fault. This is the fault of the baby boomers, and guess what, Generation X, we get to take some responsibility for this too, because at our age now, we have kids that are in college, some of us have kids that have graduated college already, so we're behind this too. The boomers we've created this generation of these millennials. And so you can sit there and you can talk shit about them all you want, about how they're lazy, about how they don't have any work ethic. Well, where did they learn from? They learned from us, right? They learned from us. So, rather than sitting here and just slamming them and talking about how lazy they are and just coming down on them and alienating these kids, I think it's probably in everybody's benefit for the future generations. Anyhow, if you have any inclination to to have the human race keep going after you pass away, because we're all gonna die, every single one of you and me, every one of us, we're gonna go away. So it's like, are we gonna, what's our major, what's the goal here? I mean, the one thing is we want to raise decent children, right? We want to perpetuate, humanity, right? I mean, we are the only unique species on this planet. Now, I don't want to get into that whole thing, but you know how I feel about that. I've got some different thought processes on that, I guess. I could be completely off the wall, But anyways, we're going to get into this with the Twitter files. And this is just something that I think everybody needs to take notice of. I mean, if you don't take notice of this, then I would say that you probably are not responsible enough to go and cast a vote in any election from here on out. If you don't take notice of this, if you don't read this stuff, if you don't find out what has gone on to influence the way that you make your decisions, I mean, I personally don't think your vote means a damn thing. You know, I think the system is rigged. It's corrupt. Everything's so screwed up. I don't know that there's any way of fixing it without just, you know, I mean, going, you know, through with a bulldozer. I mean, you know, even, and you guys can have your opinion on Thomas Jefferson, whatever you want. The guy was a very, you know, he was an intelligent individual. Did he do some questionable things? Of course. I'm not here to get into that. I don't agree with any of that. People that owned people, I don't like that very much. I don't think that should have been a thing, but it was a thing, and there's nothing we can do about it, so let's not dwell on that. But he said that there needed to be a revolution like every 20 years to keep this thing going. And we've done nothing, you know, in 246, except go to war, except play world police, fight oil wars. This country's been at war for something like all but 8 to 13 years of its existence, and we're involved in all these different things right now. I mean, we're in this proxy war. Look at all the billions, and they're wanting to spend more on Ukraine. We've dumped $60 billion so far into that place, probably more, truth be told. I mean, and who knows what kind of money has come out of there. I mean, look at all the money that went into Hunter Biden's pocket. $85,000 a month. Dude didn't know anything about the gas or oil business. He was there peddling his father's influence. That was it. And he was broke. You guys have seen the footage where he's sitting there. He's paying off a prostitute that he flew over here from Russia, right? Which, I mean, everything this guy did was, you know, something that you or I would not get away with. It's definitely something that if Donald Trump's kids were even, you know, in the same sphere, even in the same ball, if they were sitting in the nosebleeds at the same stadium as Hunter Biden, the leftist media would just be, you know, they'd be like a bunch of, you know, ravens out at the landfill just going berserk. They already are going berserk. They go berserk over everything. They're horrible. This, you know, CNN says that, well, they're trying to change now. They fired Stelter and they fired the jerk off guy, the guy that was masturbating when he was on a Zoom call with everybody. That was a Tubin. I think Lemon got demoted. That guy, he's about the dumbest guy in news. Boy. I mean, there's some dummies out there, you know. I mean, mainstream media, I don't know. There's a couple people, and I think you got Tucker. And you got like Will Cain. I like Gutfeld. He's funny. You know, everybody on the Gutfeld show is pretty funny. If you don't like that show, well, you're missing out on the top show in America. And yeah, it's on Fox. I know. Throw a fit. Stomp around. He's funny. He's hilarious. Tyrus is great. You know, Tyrus is like that guy's best friend. And anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent here. So Here's where the timeline starts on this thing. We're talking about January 8th. Okay? President Donald Trump. This is number 1. And I'll pull this up here. Hopefully you guys can see it on the big screen once it comes up. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. Maybe I need to shrink myself and make this bigger. I'm not sure. Let's see. There, we'll make that a little bigger. And I'll just move out of the way a little bit. How about that? So you can see my lovely mug. All right. So we're talking about number 1. On the morning of January 8th, President Donald Trump, with one remaining strike before being at risk of permanent suspension from Twitter, tweets twice. All right. And, you know, here we go. 6:46 a.m. The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again, will have a giant voice. Long into the future, they will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. This is the tweet that Trump puts out, okay? That doesn't break any of Twitter's policy. That's not inciting anybody to do anything. That's nothing. That's just saying that they're not going to be disrespected. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. I think that all of us have probably said that at one point or another. You know, like, don't fucking disrespect me. I mean, there's nothing violent about that at all. Okay? That was retweeted 83.3 thousand times. 507,000 likes. At 7:44 a.m., he tweets out, to all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. Nothing violent about that. He says, I'm not going to the inauguration. That's his right. There's nothing violent. There's no call to action with that. He's just saying he's not going. Number 4 here we got, for years, Twitter had resisted calls, both internal and external, to ban Trump on the grounds that blocking a world leader from the platform or removing their controversial tweets would hide important information that people should be able to see and debate. So they're talking about all his funny tweets, his mean tweets, where he'd make nicknames up for people and they would stick. And it was so mean. It was hilarious. I thought it was funny. I mean, come on. So we got number 5 here. Our mission is to provide a forum that enables people to be informed and to engage their leaders directly, the company wrote in 2019. Twitter's aim was to protect the public's right to hear from their leaders and to hold them to account. Okay. That seems like a good stance. I mean, saying everybody should have the right to hear what people have to say. You know, it's freedom of speech. But after January 6th, as Matt Taibbi and Shel Emberg have documented, pressure grew, both inside and outside of Twitter, to ban Trump. And at number 7, there were dissenters inside Twitter. Maybe because I'm from China, said one employee on January 7th, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. So this goes through a series of statements here. And these names have been redacted, but this is a conversation. This was an inter-office conversation is the way I'm gathering this. Now, I'm reading this stuff the first time. I've kind of got a rundown of it, but I haven't actually gone through this article by article here. So this is obviously an inter-office conversation on Thursday, January 7th, 2021. And names redacted. We can assume. Okay, maybe because I'm from China, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. And then the response was, I understand this fear, but I also think it's important to understand that censorship by a government is very different than censorship of the government. The First Amendment in the U.S. and similar legislation in other countries with similar concepts exist specifically to prevent the government from silencing the people. And then I respect that, but realistically, we impose far stricter rules on effectively everyone else on the platform. It says we started restricting his tweets when they became a threat to democracy and seemed like that was our red line. Yesterday, he clearly attempted to overthrow our democratic system of government and showed no signs of remorse. If this is not a clear reason to suspend him, again, as an unhinged ruler attempting to subvert the most powerful democracy in the world, again, that term democracy, I'm not sure what would be. Shrug. Okay, so I don't know who transcribed that. I'm just reading what's out here, okay? And then we got number 8 here, and this is all on Barry Weiss's feed. You can look it up. But voices like that one appear to have been a distinct minority within the company. Across Slack channels, many Twitter employees were upset that Trump hadn't been banned earlier. Okay, got a lot of employees from Twitter that wanted him banned. After January 6th, Twitter employees organized to demand their employer ban Trump. There was a lot of employee advocacy happening, said one Twitter employee. And then we've got another whole redacted series of statements here. I'm still struggling to understand the decision not to ban Trump altogether, given he is inciting people to violence that has led to people being killed. Okay, and I think we owe people an explanation externally. Now, talking about people being killed, there was one person killed, okay? And let's look up the definition of being killed. There's a difference between being killed and dying, okay? There were individuals there that day. There was one individual, he had a heart attack before anything even kicked off at all. Okay. He had hypertension. He had heart problems. Okay. He kicked off and died. They took him to, he drove a bunch of people there from his place, and, he ended up in the hospital. Okay. Now, I'm going to see if I can find my notes here, because I've got the names all written down. Oh, Let's see what we got here. There's a lot of stuff about Ukrainians. Okay, we had Kevin Greason, 55 years old, from Alabama. History, high blood pressure, had a heart attack. Okay. We had Brian Sicknick, DC police. All right. Died of natural causes. He was allegedly said to have been sprayed with bear spray that day, but bear spray doesn't kill somebody, and it can't kill somebody. It's painful, but it won't kill you. The EPA, and that's a quote from the EPA. The EPA says they don't know of anybody that's had any deaths, and I know plenty of people that have been sprayed with it because everybody carries it out here. All right, we had Ben Phillips, another gentleman. They last saw him at 10:30 a.m. on that day. He wasn't part of the violence. He was already in the hospital, and he passed away. Same thing. He had the same kind of problem. You had a Roseanne Boylan. Now, this was an interesting one. Now, this could be one that, this could have been a killed, because from what I've seen and heard, there's footage that she got stuck, like she either fell down, she fell out. They said that she got trampled by the crowd, when that's not what happened. She got hit in the head 3 times with either a baton or a stick of some sort by a member of the DC police, allegedly. This is according to eyewitness accounts. She was allegedly beat unconscious. There was a gentleman there that was a former Marine medic, and he attempted to save her life, and it didn't happen. Okay, so there's our 4 right there. Okay, Roseanne Boylan, that's borderline. There was allegedly some stuff about a drug overdose. I don't believe there was ever anything put behind that. She had recently gotten into the QAnon thing, though, hence her, involvement. And I don't know her or nothing like that. I just, she died or she was killed. And it sounds like that, from what I've read, there's witnesses that have said that, this is something that, it's a pretty serious thing. I mean, when somebody's on the ground, you don't sit there and just beat on them. If, in fact, that's what happened, this is all alleged. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just going by what I've been able to research. And then you have Ashley Babbitt. Now, when they breached the doors into the crypt of the Capitol, there was a guy beating on the door with a helmet. She was right there up front. She was, retired Air Force. She had some problems too. I mean, it seemed like she had some anger issues. I mean, I don't know the extent of it all. But they're busted in the windows, and they have a tactical team of police right behind them. Like they're packed in that stairway, and you see a gun come from around the corner, right? The guy, I think his name was Bird, Martin Michael, something like that, M. Bird. He's around the corner. You can see there's other officers. They're backed up. He comes around the corner. He's got the gun brandished, pointed at the people, right? And so they finally break the window. And Ashley Babbitt's right there. And she jumps up to go through. Boom. One shot. They said it hit her in the shoulder, and she later succumbed to her injuries. Now, from what I saw, she got hit in the neck. There was blood everywhere. She got hit and she was done. Like she, and then right then, you had tactical officers, and they had tactical, either ARs or whatever they're holding, whatever they're carrying. They were right there on that. They were on the same side of the door as the protesters, rioters, whatever you want to call them, idiots. I think they were pretty stupid to do what they did. I mean, I'm not, trust me, I've never advocated any of this stuff. It's another example of the masses are asses. But anyways, it was kind of weird that you had these guys from a tactical team, like a SWAT team, what have you, right there. Yet there was no communication between them and the DC police. And this guy, you know, you've got an entire stairwell going all the way down and out the building full of people, and you only fire one shot, and no other officers fire any other shots. Now, that's very unusual, because typically in an officer-related shooting, if there's other officers on site, it's kind of like one of those deals where the other officers they're gonna shoot too. I mean, it's almost like, you know, I'm not saying it is comparable to it, but, you know, there's, you know, like with the mob and with like cartels and certain gangs and shit like that, everybody fires a shot. So that way everybody's implicated, you know? So it was kind of weird. I mean, I've seen footage. There was one a few years back, and this black man, obviously suffering from mental illness, drug addiction, who knows what, lots of problems, had a steak knife in the middle of the street. He's surrounded by the police, so he pulls out a steak knife. Ladies and gentlemen, a steak knife. And they unloaded on him. I mean, it was disgusting to see. You know, and typically that's the way that works. So for him to just fire one shot, I mean, why just the one shot? Why didn't he fire at anybody else? You got a whole hallway of people, but yet on the other side of the door, right behind these people that are breaking out the glass, you've got a tactical team right there. Like literally, they were there within 1 or 2 seconds of Ashley Babbitt getting shot in the alleged shoulder. I don't know of anybody that's been shot. I mean, getting shot in the shoulder is not really a life-threatening deal. Not that I know of. I mean, it's going to hurt. You're going to be fucked up, but it's not, you know, it's not going to kill you. I mean, it's his service pistol. It's not, you know, I mean, but only one shot. Kind of weird. And the guy had a history of acting out of hand. I watched a little bit of the interview with him. I wasn't that impressed. I didn't really stick around. So anyways, they talked about this leading to people being killed. Well, okay. The two people that were killed, okay, I would say that Rosanne Boyland, maybe she was killed. Maybe she died. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's Hunter Biden's laptop. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I'm not here to say, but I can tell you what. The officer, Brian Sicknick, he suffered 2 strokes, not at the scene. He did get shot allegedly with bear spray. Not lethal though. You know, you're gonna have to go wash your eyes out. It's gonna sting. It's gonna suck. It's not gonna kill you. You know, he had 2 strokes, and unfortunately he passed away. Kevin Greason, heart attack, history of high blood pressure, hypertension, had a heart attack, passed out. There's a lot of excitement going on. And Ben Phillips, same thing. So he never even went in. So, okay, so you've got these deaths that were not even, it had nothing to do with anything. You had Ashley Babbitt get shot in the neck, and you had the Rosanne Boyland thing, which is kind of up in the air of which way that went. So to talk about, you know, I mean, they made this thing into such a stupid deal. I mean, there's scenes in there where the cops are talking to these people. It was stupid. I'm not advocating or behind it or anything, but I think these people were also in a volatile situation where emotions were high, and they were egged on by people like Ray Epps. Now, where's Ray Epps? No one wants to talk about that. The news media, they've made him out to be a victim now. And there is footage of him winding everybody up. There's footage of him telling a young man right before they busted through the barricades to go in there. And then where's he go? He bounces. He doesn't go in. You know, they're chanting fed at him the night before when he's telling everybody, we got to go into the Capitol, into the Capitol. He's like, I'll probably get arrested, but we got to go in. Then he just takes off and he goes back to Arizona. He's number 16 on the FBI's most wanted list. He goes back to his ranch where he has weddings every weekend, and he drives around in his golf cart, which he had to leave because people have hassled him enough now because it's obvious that he had a part in this. But now he's saying he's a victim. I heard him interviewing him, and supposedly he's in the Rocky Mountains somewhere in an RV. He could be right in my backyard for all I know, talking about how he's a victim. And I think that is just absolutely the most pathetic bullshit I've ever heard. And you hear these news people saying this, oh, poor Ray Epps. It's like, did you even watch? The dude was sitting there screaming at people to go in. He escalated that. And how come he went from being 16 on the wanted list to just not even a person of interest? He hasn't testified. They haven't looked at him, nothing. But he took off from his place in Arizona and is apparently hiding out somewhere in an RV. I'm surprised people in Wyoming haven't found him. If he is in Wyoming, he's in the Rockies somewhere, so that could be, he could be in Colorado too. He could be in fucking New Mexico, who knows? So anyway, we go through this, if Alex Jones was shut down for, get your battle rifles, apparently is what he said to get shut down. I mean, it says, do we have any belief that Trump will stop tweeting incitements to violence? He didn't incite anybody to violence. He didn't tweet anything to incite anybody to violence. And I think a lot of employees must share these concerns. Is there any sort of channel or group where we can organize more action? There's a lot of employee advocacy happening both here and in Redacted. Probably talking about, if I were to guess, Facebook. And, this goes on. Number 10, here, we have to do the right thing and ban this account, said one staffer. It's pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement without violating the rules. If he doesn't violate the rules, then how's he inciting violence? I mean, that's kind of a line in the sand, isn't it? I mean, you either are or you aren't. And then here we go. We got some more inter-office communication. It says that last sentence, we have to do the right thing here and ban this account. And this repeats itself. And then it says edited. So I don't know what's going on there. A lot of stuff's redacted. We don't have a good track record of acting on his account except in the clearest and most explicit of cases. And even then, in my opinion, extraordinary circumstances demand extraordinary leadership. It took 3 years, but I've lost faith. Actual votes, Donald Trump, Republican Party. Okay, they've got just the election number. Okay. Yeah, those numbers are what they got. Anyway, second, it's pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement while not violating the rules. In the early afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published an open letter signed by over 300 Twitter employees to CEO Jack Dorsey demanding Trump's ban. We must examine Twitter's complicity in what President-elect Biden has rightly termed insurrection. Okay, number 12. But the Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter's policies. I think we'd have a hard time saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. Number 13, it's pretty clear that he's saying the American patriots are the ones who voted for him, and not the terrorists. And in parentheses, we can call them that, right? Out of parentheses, from Wednesday. So they're talking about Wednesday, January 6th. Calling the people that breached the Capitol terrorists. I don't know about that. They're dumb. But, I mean, if you're going to call them terrorists, then you have to call everybody that went out in the summer of 2020 and burned down cities and police stations and fucking tried to burn down, city buildings and businesses and looted and rioted and killed people. They're terrorists too. I mean, there was way more death and destruction that went on with that all shit. You know what I mean? Number 14, another staffer agreed. Don't see the incitement angle here. And this is somebody that's got their name as Anika Navaroli. I see blank redacted has pinned us to ask about incitement for the Donald J. Trump tweet and want to see if we can align. And then there's in parentheses a status number or whatever. Doesn't mean anything. Friday, January 8th. I don't see the incitement of fear. What PC could it be trying to incite fear about? that statement repeats itself 3 times, and it says edited. And the speaker's redacted. The next person says, I think we'd have a hard time saying this is incitement. It's pretty clear. He's saying the American patriots are the ones who voted for him and not the terrorists. The same quote. And then they say the same thing. This is just repeating itself. And then we've got something that says, I also have not seen clear or coded incitement in the tweet. I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no bias or violations for the DJT one. And then this Annika Navaroli, I'm also not seeing clear or coded incitement in the DJT tweet. And then Annika goes on to say, I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no bias. Again, a repetition. And then we've got redacted, and it says flagging that Yoel is talking about Yoel Roth. Flagging that Yoel is looking for an assessment of the DJT tweet in the HPDC crisis channel. Number 16, she does just that. And as an FYI, safety has assessed the DJT tweet above and determined that there is no violation of our policies at this time. And then we've got the next one, and this is like at 5:15, by redacted. I stepped out for a while. Let me know, Yoel, if any action will, and then redacted. And then we have Navaroli again. FYI, safety has assessed the DJT tweet above and determined no violation of our policies at this time. So they've determined at this point, this is the execs sitting in a room. They decided there's nothing. So number 17 later, Navaroli would testify to the House committee. For months, I had been begging and anticipating and attempting to raise the reality that if we made no intervention into what I saw occurring, people were going to die. People have already been dying. What are you talking about? Jesus Christ. Look what happened in the summer of 2020. Jesus. Next, Twitter's safety team decides that Trump's 7:44 a.m. Eastern Time tweet is also not in violation. They are unequivocal. It's a clear no vio. It's just to say he's not attending the inauguration, which is all he said. Just dropping in to say he tweeted again, but it's a clear no vio. Again, let me check. Blah, 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 blah. Then we have, just some BS. People might be saying that this is the proof that he doesn't support a peaceful transition because he won't attend the inauguration. Saying you're not going to go someplace. Yeah, maybe it probably does say he doesn't support it, but obviously, with all this information, he had grounds not to support it and still does. To understand Twitter's decision to ban Trump, we must consider how Twitter deals with other heads of state and political leaders, including Iran, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. Okay. In June 2018, Iran's Ayatollah al-Khamenei tweeted, Israel is a malignant cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible and it will happen. And that tweet was allowed to stay up. So they left that one up, no problem. All right. In October 2020, the Malaysian Prime Minister said it wasn't right for Muslims to kill Muslims or to kill millions of French people. Twitter deleted his tweet for glorifying violence, but he remains on the platform. The tweet below was taken from the Wayback Machine. I'm sorry. The Malaysian Prime Minister said it was a right, not wasn't a right. It was a right for Muslims to kill millions of French people. And he remains on the platform. The tweet, they deleted the tweet, but he still was allowed to stay. We got number 22. Muhammadu Buhari, the president of Nigeria, incited violence against pro-Biafra groups. Those of us in the fields for 30 months who went through the war, he wrote, will treat them in the language they understand. Twitter deleted the tweet, but didn't ban Buhari. On October 21, Twitter allowed Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to call on citizens to take up arms against the Tigray region. Twitter allowed the tweet to remain and did not ban the Prime Minister, and I can't read it because it's written in Ethiopian. In 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government threatened to arrest Twitter employees in India and incarcerate them for up to 7 years after they restored hundreds of accounts that had been critical of him. Twitter did not ban Modi. So this guy's threatening their own employees. They don't ban him. They did ban Trump, even though the key staffers said that Trump had not incited violence, not even in a coded way. Less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not in violation of Twitter policy, Vijaya Gadde, Twitter's head of legal policy and trust, asked whether it could in fact be coded incitement to further violence. So she's asking, is there a way that we can just say that this is what it is? And a few minutes later, Twitter employees on the scaled enforcement team suggest that Trump's tweet may have violated Twitter's glorification of violence policy if you interpreted the phrase American patriots to refer to the rioters. Oh boy. So they're trying to just twist this anyway, and then we've got things escalate from there. Okay, members of that team came to view him as a leader of a terrorist group responsible for violence, deaths comparable to Christchurch shooter or Hitler, and on that basis and on the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. I spoke to Blank just now. They understand the tweet, but they now view him as the leader of a terrorist. The same thing I just said. It's just a quote from somebody redacted. Doesn't matter. 2 hours later, Twitter executives host a 30-minute all-staff meeting, and Jack Dorsey and Vijaya answer staff questions as to why Trump wasn't banned yet, but they make some employees angrier. Multiple tweeps, I guess that's what a Twitter employee is called, as a tweep, have quoted the banality of evil, suggesting that people implementing our policies are like Nazis following orders, relays Yoel Roth to a colleague. Okay. Dorsey requested simpler language to explain Trump's suspension. Roth wrote, "God help us, this makes me think he wants to share it publicly." And then they go on to talk about 8chan and Parler and all that. 1 hour later, Twitter announces Trump's permanent suspension due to the risk of further incitement of violence, and many at Twitter were ecstatic. And it's got a whole list of these people yelling and hollering and just very happy. And congratulatory, big props to whoever in trust and safety is sitting there whack-a-moling these Trump accounts. Okay? By the next day, employees expressed eagerness to tackle medical misinformation as soon as possible. So this is when they went into saying that you couldn't say anything that they considered medical misinformation, which basically was saying if you said anything that was, against what the NIH or the CDC or fucking Fauci was saying, that you were promoting misinformation, which is what I ended up getting banned for. When in fact, the only thing I put out there was actual, real, legit information that was cited by doctors, and there was nothing, misleading about any of it. The things I put out there were much more down the line than anything we heard from that cookie elf. He changed his mind every day. Wear 1 mask, wear 2 masks, 3 masks, no mask. I'm science. Come on. So we get into the whole, this gets into the whole damn thing now. They're starting to get into this stuff with that, which I'm not going to get into. I just wanted to talk about the whole thing with, this is how they decided to ban Trump from Twitter. So that's a pretty weak case. All those people are gone now, though. They're all fired. They're gone. They're down the road. And if you go back and you see what they did, I mean, they went in there. The FBI showed up. They told Twitter that there was, well, they went into Zuckerberg. This is what they, and you could see Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan talking about this. That they went in and said, well, you need to be vigilant. We have word that there's going to be some Russian disinformation. And so, but here's the thing, is they'd been sitting on that laptop. They'd been sitting on that for a long time. It didn't just surface. They'd had it. They knew it was legit. And they told Twitters to shut down the New York Post tweet about it, And they didn't put it back up. And then they came and said, well, if you remove it, then we'll allow you to put it back, is what Dorsey and Vijaya said. But the New York Post, out of integrity, they said, no, we're not removing it, put it back up, and they refused to do so. And now, at this point in the game, the Washington Post, CBS News, the New York Times, all these different news agencies have been forced to come out and say that, yes, in fact, the laptop is real. There's no sign of it being tampered with. They're trying to take any angle they can on this. The fact of the matter is you have a corrupt president, and his son has been corrupted. And it's my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I think that it has everything to do with Joe. I think Joe put him in that position. I think that probably caused his drug use and everything else. Kid was put under all this pressure to be out there wheeling and dealing, and he probably knew that what he's doing was wrong, because he doesn't seem like a bad guy, but he's got some problems. He's certainly got some problems, but when you look at him, when he speaks, he doesn't seem like he's got like evil intentions, but it seems like he was put up to doing some things that he probably didn't want to do and he had to do for their family. I'm just saying, that's just my take on it. I could be wrong, but the dude doesn't, he's done some messed up stuff for sure. But you listen to him talking to that one prostitute, and he's paying her, and she's on the phone, and he's asking her, he's like, did I hurt you? Did I hurt you? And that's kind of that's a there's a thin line there between what that is and what that isn't. But it seems that she voluntarily went with it. Whatever. He paid her $10,000. I don't know. I'm not saying that makes it okay, but he wasn't acting like like he was gonna be violent towards her or anything. In fact, that's what he asked her. He's like, did I ever do anything violent to you? And she said no. And I don't know. They said there's stuff on that laptop that you don't want to see, and I'm sure there is. But I think that this dude, he got thrown into a world that he didn't want to be in. Now, you got to understand, when he was a kid, he was in that car that, and this is a fucked up thing too, because Joe Biden's, first wife, Hunter's mom, she pulled out in front of that truck. Okay, they tried to make that guy that was driving the truck, they tried to say he was a drunk driver. He wasn't a drunk driver. It ruined his career that they said that about him. He said she just pulled out in front of him, and there was no chance. Why'd she do that? Why'd she do that? Allegedly, Ashley's diary says some things that are less than savory. Allegedly, she says she didn't even want to go in the shower until she knew that Creepy Joe was asleep, because otherwise he would come in there and get in the shower with her. Allegedly, this is what it says. They're not putting that out there. The two idiots that tried to sell the goddamn thing, they got thrown in prison immediately. They're sitting there right now for stolen property. Now, and you've got this Sam Brinton guy that steals suitcases from airports, that's a federal felony, especially the amount of money. Does it in Minneapolis and Vegas, and he gets sent home on leave. I bet he's getting paid, and I bet you he doesn't do a day. They're saying he's looking at 10 years for the deal in Vegas and 5 for Minneapolis, which I don't know if that's because the one in Vegas had apparently quite a few, jewels, and like $1,700 in jewelry. That's not really a lot when you're talking jewelry, but they said it was valued at $34,000 some and change. $3,400 and change. I'm sorry, and I'm not sure what was in the one in Minneapolis, and it's not clear, but it looks like if you go into a baggage claim in an airport and you take somebody's bag that doesn't belong to you, and then you take it and you fly with it to over state lines, that's a federal crime. That's a federal crime. So we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, I'll bet you that dude doesn't do a day. They already came at Hunter with a deal for him to plead guilty to the firearms thing and tax evasion and not do any prison time. He turned it down, which we'll see where it goes from there. I don't know. The Republicans say they're going to go in and just investigate the hell out of this as soon as they take over in the House, on January 3rd. We'll see. The Republicans say a lot of things, and they do very little. They say a lot of things, they do very little. Just like all of them. Doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican, whatever. On another note, Kristen Sinema. Let's see. I think we're done with this stuff with Twitter. I'm just going to take that off. I think I've had enough of that. I think we got through the meat of what that was all about. But Kristen Sinema decided to remove herself from the Democrat Party, and she's now an independent, which has some of the Democrats just up in arms. Everybody's wound up about it. I don't see what the big deal is. I mean, she voted, she was 50-50 down the line. You got a guy like Joe Manchin who, he's throwing some monkey wrenches and this and that, but at the end, he usually succumbs and votes, in step with his party. I think the whole two-party system is stupid. You know where I stand on it. I think it's dumb. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think these people they're hucksters, they're grifters, they're put in office and they never get out, and and then they become corrupt. It's only a matter of time. It's a cesspool. I mean, look at what happened to Madison Cawthorn when he came out and said what he said about people's lifestyles and the parties and the swinging and the sexual deviancy and all that going on out there, which, hey, consenting adults, whatever, do your thing. You want to have your eyes wide shut parties. I don't give a shit. What do I care? I mean, but he came out and said something about it. Boy, he was gone. He was out of there. So if you're not corrupt, if you're not corruptible, then chances are you're not going to stick around that long, and you're going to be made a target. I mean, it's just like, just as an example, okay. I'm just going to make it like a comparison, okay? If anybody remembers Lenny Dykstra, played outfield for the Phillies, the Mets. He was all over the place. Hard-nosed player, little guy, he's done time in federal prison. He recently was released, I believe, if I remember right. I think he's out. But he would go out there and he would get dirt on the umpires. He would have PIs following these guys around when they're out on the road, because you have crews of umpires that travel around just like the teams do. And he'd get dirt on them. He'd find out what they'd been up to that night before the game, whatever. What was up with them? Were they having an affair? Did they have a gambling debt? Did they have a drug addiction? What was it? He'd get up to bat, pitch go by, they call it a strike. He doesn't like the call. He'd step out of the box and look at him and say, hey, what? Your wife isn't going to like it when she hears about, such and such. And he'd drop like the woman's name, or he'd say, wait till they hear about your, snorkeling all that cocaine or your gambling debts or whatever, And I mean, next thing you know, he's got to walk and he's running down to first base, I mean, that's kind of what these lobbyists do. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. These people, they get sucked in and they end up putting themselves in a bad situation. They end up getting morally compromised, and then it gets recorded by somebody, and then boom, guess what? You're on the take now because they got leverage. You've been leveraged. You've been, I mean, you can't tell me that Joe Biden isn't compromised. This dude's compromised bigger than shit. Tell me that Nancy Pelosi isn't compromised. They all are. Insider trading, just corruption. Beyond belief. Look at people like, your Lindsey Grahams and your Mitch McConnells. I mean, there's only a handful that I don't believe probably are. But you never know. But they always say they're going to do one thing and then they do another. So, don't hold your breath is all I'm saying. And this thing here that I just read to you, I mean, there's a whole series of this. It goes way back, I mean, Matt Taibbi was crucified for putting it out there. And Elon Musk is talking about putting out a release about COVID and the origin of that. And it sounds like he's going to do it. I think Elon's fixing to blow the roof off of things. I don't think he cares. And everybody out there that's whining about Twitter and how it's, you're leaving Twitter. Why? Because people are allowed to speak on there now? I mean, if you don't like what somebody says, then you have more than the right to fire back. Fire back. If somebody's saying something that's so ridiculous and so hate-filled and terrible, it should be pretty easy to shut down, right? Like with words. And that's called having a conversation. It's not difficult. You shouldn't just say that you're not allowed to talk. Like I said, I believe people say shit that's not right. I'm not going to call it hate speech because that's stupid. It's ignorance. If somebody's ignorant, then as a decent quality human being, I believe it's your duty to try and educate the ignorant person, to try and open their eyes. If they don't want to, then guess what? You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to respond to their ignorant tweets. If nobody responds, then pretty soon it stops. You know what I mean? I mean, it's simple. It's simple. It's just like what I think we should do with politicians and all these assholes in D.C. is we should just walk away from them. Just ignore them and go about our daily business because we don't need them. We don't need these people to run our lives. You know what you need to do. I know what I need to do. We all know what we need to do. We're all adults here. We know what's up. We're bigger adults than these assholes are. And there's no reason for us to be worried about 87,000 of these fucking IRS agents coming up and coming down our fucking throats to try and steal more from us. They've already stolen as much as they can steal from us. I mean, the inflation's through the damn roof. You can hardly afford to go to the grocery store. You can't afford to fill your gas tank. It's rough. Travel is through the roof. I haven't traveled in years, and I used to travel all the time. I mean, I don't even want to. I just like staying right here in my little corner of the world, where there's nobody around. But I mean, in a matter of a couple of years, they've really just destroyed everything, and it's never going to go back to normal. I mean, they call it the new normal. Well, this is the new, I don't know about the new normal, but it's a fucked up normal. That's for sure. Because things just aren't right. And it seems like people are just getting dumbed down too. People just are turning their backs on things. They don't pay attention. Nobody does their homework on anything. They just believe everything they read and hear. I mean, if you're listening to this, you got to do your homework. You really do. You have to dig into things. You have to look at credibility, not just read something that somebody puts online. You got to look at the source, and then you got to do some deep diving into that. I do that with everything. Anything that I say on here, I've done a dive on it as far as I can go. And I'm talking about getting into names, companies, anything with any kind of information. I try and take it down to where it came from and strip it down to its bare form and find out, were there influencers? This person that said this, who were they involved with? You got to look at that stuff. You can't just take these stupid shit and these stupid ass memes and shit that come out on social media or crap chat or whatever you're looking at. TikTok. You can't take this stuff as absolute truth and don't perpetuate it. Don't retweet. Don't retweet. Don't share anything on Facebook unless you look into it. You can look into any of my memes that I put out there, and I make my own memes. All those that you see from me, I sit here and I make those myself. And you're all welcome to use them if you like. But I tell you what, every single one of them, they're certainly truthful. There's nothing in them ever that's not. And the one time I did make a mistake about somebody, I came out and I owned it. Do I agree with the gentleman's policies? Certainly not. I don't agree with his politics. But I realized that the guy was, he wasn't who I had. I'd done a disservice and I was wrong. And that's fine. I don't mind, standing up and saying, hey, I made a mistake. We all make mistakes. It happens. But we try not to. I mean, I don't try to purposely make mistakes, People might say otherwise, but I don't. That's not my intention. Not ever. On that note, I'm going to bounce out. I got to go pick up the kid. It's snowing outside, so I probably got a truck to go shovel out and all that good stuff. So Anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Look into this stuff. I mean, whether you're a Trump supporter or Biden, I don't give a shit. You know, I mean, my advice would be not to be a supporter of any of them. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I mean, my idealistic election day would be nobody shows up to vote. I think that'd be awesome, but that won't ever happen. There would, even if it got to that point, there'd be one ass clown out there that would go and vote, and then you know. But I think that would be just absolutely great. I know y'all don't agree with me. And as I've explained too, there's a difference between your national elections and your local election. Like, you should vote in your local elections. I mean, school board, things like that. That stuff affects you and your children directly. So on the flip side of the coin, there are things that are worth voting for. Things like that, you know, especially when you're talking about things involving your kids. You know, your mayor, your school board, you know, things of that nature. That's worth being informed on. But that's the sad thing, is that people most of the time aren't even informed on who they're voting for in local elections, much less national elections. They just believe whatever they see on the TV or whatever they read on Bookface, or, you know, whoever's barking the loudest. Anyway, I'm out of here. Be good or be good at it. In all things, be kind and do no harm. Later days, Willie Mays.